Welcome to the podcast With All Your Mind, hosted by me, Rachel Grimm. We're here to help understand the Bible with cultural and historical context, linguistic info, and other cool stuff. Enjoy. All right, good afternoon, guys. This is Rachel, and this is With All Your Mind. And this is our first mini episode. We're going to have a flip-flop format. Say that 5 times fast. Flip-flop format of things going on for this podcast. And that means that every other episode is going to be a shorter one. The longer ones are typically between 30 and 50 minutes. I'm hoping to keep it towards the 30-minute side. And the shorter ones are only going to be about 5 to 7 minutes. I'm going to try and keep it to the 5-minute end, but I ramble a bit, so we'll see. So what we're going to do is, for these mini episodes, is focus on a word, an important word for understanding the Bible, or a verse, or just one little small concept, instead of diving into great detail that I researched the heck out of for one of the bigger episodes. For this one, we're going to talk about a very basic word, and that word is Bible. I thought it's pretty important to know where the name of the holy book of the Christian faith comes from. So we're going to talk about that. First of all, when you talk about the Bible, that's a pretty common name that is very well understood through different languages, because we all take our name of the Bible, Biblia, all those different kinds of names are taken from Greek or Latin, and so they're very similar, even when they're in other languages. When you're speaking in Hebrew about the Christian Bible, the word is hamikra, so that's a different one. But most languages have a word that's pretty similar to the English word Bible. So we get our name Bible from the Greek word ta biblia. And ta is just an article, like the Bible. Ta biblia. The interesting part about it is that it is not a name. It just means the scrolls. And pay attention, it's plural, the scrolls, the many scrolls. And this is where we get the idea of the Holy Scriptures, the Holy Writings. The scrolls is just referencing the many different books of the Bible that we have, because they were written on individual scrolls or parchments. Most of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, was written on scrolls. Some of the New Testament was written on parchments as well. So when we're talking about the Bible, we're talking about a collection of books that were compiled over a long period of time and weren't compiled into a complete book, one individual book, until much later. So the canon of Scripture was not really finalized until the 400s AD, 400-ish years after Jesus, in the time of the New Testament. The leather-bound or wood-bound book, where it was in one very together book, not individual parchments or scrolls, one book. The whole Bible was not all together in one book until the 600s, 700s, 800s AD, and that's when book binding became more common. It was really only invented in Europe in the 600s. It was very rarely found in other places before that. And then we didn't have chapter and verse markings added into the Bible until the 1400s or 1500s AD. So our modern idea of the Bible as one bound book with various segments that we call by different names that are broken down into chapters and verses is a pretty modern idea. Maybe only about 600 years old out of, the history of the world. That's pretty short. So the Bible, referring to the holy writings or the holy scriptures, which is where we get scriptures, script, writing. That's what we're getting that from, is we're just talking about the holy writings. In the New Testament times, when they're talking about the holy scriptures or the holy writings, they're referring to the Hebrew Old Testament, which was the Jewish Bible. That would have included the the law, which is the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, otherwise known as the Law of Moses. The second group is the prophets, which are the prophetic books of the Old Testament: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, all of those little books back there. And then the last category is the writings, which is a little redundant, but it is the category of things that don't fall into the other 2 categories. So it is the more poetic books, the book of songs, which would be Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. So in the New Testament, when they're talking about the scriptures or the holy writings, they're referring to the Jewish or Hebrew Old Testament. The Bible as we know it is the complete collection of these things, including the Gospels, which talked about Jesus' life, the epistles, and other prophetic books in the New Testament. All right? So when you think about the Bible, keep in mind that a leather-bound or paperback or hardback or whatever you want to call it, book with chapter and verse markings is a modern version of the Bible. An older version, a historically accurate version of the Bible that the Old Testament writers would have known of, would have been a scroll here, a scroll there, and they would have known of them, but probably never would have owned them themselves. It would have been too expensive to produce one of those for every family to have one. One was kept in a synagogue somewhere. Okay, so Bible, the scrolls, a much different idea than we have in our modern times. All right, that's it. Have a good one, guys. Bye.